communicators, and how do you break are you trying to even break the echo chamber, or are we trying to, just talk to everyone we can in our own communities and the airwaves and the socials, and then, because I think we need equally an army of communicators and mixed messengers that are not, just experts and talking heads, but people sharing the actual reality of what's happening to them. And then, where celebrities have big platforms, maybe they should not, maybe say a couple of words, but maybe they should pass the mic to people. And so you can reach more people with those stories. And then I'll land there. I have one other thing to say, but I'm losing it, and I don't want to blab.
So if I could jump in, this is kind of like where I disagree a little bit, right? So it's like some of these issues did not start with the current administration, right? Some of these issues are inherently baked into politics. We could talk all day about insider trading in Congress, right? We could talk all day about not passing laws on both sides of the aisle to ban or prohibit lawmakers from executing trades on Wall Street on which they have insider information, because the average person would go to prison if they had this information and they started trading stocks. Some of this, the reason I disagree is because I think what intrinsically happens is people fall into their camp, right? Like, it's this idea that, well, my side is better than the other side. And maybe in some ways it is, and maybe in some ways it isn't. But I think our problem is the body politic as a whole. I was watching, the Epstein thing's a big thing to me, right? I was watching, they were grilling the attorney general the other day, and I think it was Dick Durbin, and she asked him, she said, well, they've had most of this information since Obama was president. Why didn't the Democrats make as big of an issue then about the Epstein files as they're making now? They're making the issue now because they see it as good politics, or they see this as a political issue that they can seize upon. But the truth is, we've known about Epstein since the early 2000s when he first went to prison, and no one has made an effort to get justice for these girls that have been abused. Now everyone, it seems, wants to use this as some type of weapon. And there's just a marked hypocrisy on both sides. The problem is not, hold on, I'm at the coffee shop and I'm in New York City. The problem is not left or right. The problem is these people get elected. Excuse me, these people get elected, they go to Washington, and the first thing they do is they fall into Washington's business as usual. And unfortunately, it helps a lot of people, and unfortunately, it crushes a lot of people. But the issue is not necessarily left or right. The issue is democracy, in my opinion. And I think that more people have more in common on average than they have than they don't have on average. And I don't think this is this current administration, because I live in a city where since 9/11, and this is to Denise's earlier point, but since 9/11, we are used to seeing Army guys with M16s at Penn Station, at Grand Central Station, down by the World Trade Center. We now have state troopers walking around New York City. To Denise's earlier point, what's going to happen is, you just become so acclimated to it that you don't see them anymore. And what's going to happen in these other cities, because I do believe Mercy is right, it's psychological warfare. You're going to get used to seeing camouflaged individuals carrying large weapons walking around, and it's just going to become the new normal for you. The new normal is what scares me.
Can can I just say one thing, which is that Rick and I have these conversations all the time. And, I mean, we've long been talking about what some of the uh, challenges to the system are, and that there is a systemic, there are systemic problems, problems of trust, outsized influence of, big money, and literally people who don't live in locations buying elections. The amounts of money that so ad campaign finance reform, ending Citizens United, which, by the way, corporations aren't people, so isn't there a way to finally get ending Citizens United through? I digress, but I guess I just want to push back on one thing and say we are in a slightly different moment. I don't buy the both sidesism in the argument right now that you're putting forward, Daryl. I just want to say I'm not sure I agree with you on that. I don't. I think we are in a unique moment where people are, despite whatever problems there are in our system that everybody needs to come together to reform, which we all agree, it needs to work better for more people, for more families, for more people without kids, for more people than just wealthy people. But to ignore the deliberate concentration of power and flouting of constitutional norm. Even though we know the Constitution isn't perfect, it's a living document. It needed to be improved. It didn't even mention women. We can continue to poke holes in the system, and the more we find common ground across those, the better to make it better. But there is quite a short-term, like 5 alarm fire that I believe that we are in at the moment that needs to be addressed. So I'm just going to mention my dissent.
Morning, Dr. Francine. Dr. There you are. Morning, Dr.
Good morning, James. Dr. James.
Either will do in this space. I'm fine with that. As long as there's not another James here, we'll know we're.
I was listening to my friend Andrea talk about the moment in time that we are in. And I think that there's a recognition that we have to have, that we are in a special moment in time, but that despite that, there are ordinary daily things that are going on, and it would be going on no matter what. For instance, and this is directed to my friend Denise, I have a friend who has a 3-year-old child that is of mixed race and has just gone into a Head Start program and doesn't know, since it's her first child, doesn't know what is common, whether they are supposed to be speaking English or Spanish, and whether her child is having a typical experience or not a typical experience. And so these kinds of things go on even when the world seems to be coming to an end politically. Mothers are bringing up toddlers and putting them into school for the first time and asking what the education system should offer. And so we need to be, and too bad Andrea is still on the phone, but we need to be aware of both of these things happening simultaneously. And there really is a great Bruegel painting that describes that, and a great Auden poem about the Bruegel painting. Um, and the, the Bruegel painting is a painting of Icarus falling from the sky. And while Icarus is falling from the sky, at the same time, a farmer is tending his lands, a woman is nursing her baby. It's like it's a complicated world in which not all of us are doing the same thing at the same time. Did that help or hinder the discussion?
Well, of course it helps the discussion because you're contributing.
Well, and you brought up Head Start. So my daughter was a Head Start kid, and I was a part of the parental advisory board. I was a vice president, because that's what I do apparently. But I was also a part of the health advisory board for that organization. And she's in first grade now, so 3 years ago.
So not so long ago, Mercy.
So, yeah. And I don't even know how to have this conversation at this point, because I don't feel like I've dwelled on it enough, But I know that my daughter learned English and Spanish in Head Start. I know that in our state, and it was Mid-Nebraska Community Action Head Start, and within that organization, they had already then started preparing for lack of federal funding and changes they were going to have to make within the organization to continue to serve the low-income population that Head Start manages, essentially. And there is no normal right now, especially in low-income families. And that's part of the plan. When people lack resources, this is widespread, you see more neglect, you see more abuse, you see more violence in the home, because people are not stable. They don't have a stable income. They have so many overhead stressors that you lack that foundation of safety. And I find that because people know that, they are weaponizing it, especially at this point in time. We saw when those stimmy checks went out during the pandemic, rate of crime dropped across the board because people had the resources to be able to take care of themselves in a way that they weren't able to do before. Now, with those stimmy checks, we knew inflation was going to increase. We knew other things were going to happen down the line. But humans are wired for immediate gratification. That's why social media is so addictive. You get that immediate dopamine rush. And if you keep people off balance, you have a better success rate in accomplishing your goals. And I think I need to end there. I've only had like 2.5 cups of coffee, so my big brain's not really fully functioning.
I envisioned a propeller on your back that was fueled by espresso, and it just began to use up all its fuel, and it just started to slow.
I stuttered out there. Yeah, I need more caffeine and more water and more food.
This morning, go ahead. If someone has something to say that's kind of still along the stream of thought, please do. I have something to say. It's a little bit more of a parallel.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody watched The Walking Dead. One of the most interesting things to watch when you watch The Walking Dead is to watch the set design, to watch kind of like as the world was collapsing, what were people doing? And one of my favorite scenes was it's a wedding when literally they come into a space and of course the world has collapsed and there's zombies everywhere, but people were still like having the wedding cake and the decorations were still up behind the bride, and then everybody at the wedding basically was bitten and turned into a zombie. And I think that's what I'm kind of getting very sensitive to, of just how normal should we be acting, or what's the point when this isn't normal anymore? And I don't know that that's today. I don't know that that's today. I don't know that we should, all be running through the streets, just, disguise on the, the world's gonna die, Chicken Little. But I do think, like, you need to know what the point is, right? Like, what is the point that this would be too much or this would go too far? And do we have a line at all? We talk about kind of like escalation as the worst thing that can happen, and I'm not sure that it is. Um, I guess I'm of the opinion, and this may be an unpopular one, but we look at, for example, you look at the Civil War as a failure of politics, and I think of it as a extension, as a place that politics extended to, not a failure of politics, because it accomplished a goal, right? And I'm not saying, please don't hear me, saying we need to, everybody go get a gun and we need to be, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, I'm getting concerned that it feels like nobody has a line at all.
Hey Denise, what is? Do you have any ideas about some of? And I would imagine we have a lot of different lines. Maybe not just the one. I'm curious. Do you have any lines, even if they're smaller or bigger ones, where maybe you're beginning to feel a bit boxed in, and you've hit your point of enough's enough, and this is what I'm doing now, or are you just kind of meditating on this a bit as it relates to yourself and others?
I have a couple, but I think I think that my point is that we should have some. That's something you should think about. I mean, I am a naturalized citizen of the United States, and I have a go bag in my house now. Like, of when am I not going to be safe here? Is there a point? Is there a line? I think that is absolutely insane. And I guess because I'm so sensitive to it, because it has a direct physical, immediate impact on me and my family, that I've been watching and kind of waiting and looking and seeing, wait a minute, are we all just gonna kind of like capitulate step by step by step and just acclimate to the boiling water? Is that what we're going to do here? So I think it's not so much that if I was the governor of New York or of California, I wouldn't be sending federal dollars. I thought it was insane that California literally is burned to a crisp and has to ask for their own money back to help rebuild their cities. I think we've like jumped the shark in a way that I did not think I would see in my lifetime. And I always expect bad people to do bad things, but I think what I'm surprised by is the willingness of good people to kind of not have that line. And again, not to beat the metaphor, but like the example of the Civil War is like, we talk about it like it's only bad, and I can vote, I can stand here, I'm a citizen because of the Civil War. Like that's literally how that it wasn't all bad. It was I wish it didn't have to get to that point, but it stopped a horror. And so I guess I'm just wanting us, if there's a call to action, like what do I want? I know I'm rambling. Like what do I want? I just want us to think about and to have some kind of like intention or clarity about what would be too much, where the line is. And I'm not saying pick up your arms and fight. Who am I to tell anybody to do that? I just want you to know what you would fight for, and if there's a point that you would fight, if that makes sense.
if I can
What's
say
the
something.
point? Yeah, you may. I just wanted to ask one final follow-up, but I'll say good morning, Mo. Denise, what's one example of a line you have, and what would cause you to fight?
I think sending troops into U.S. cities is outrageous. I think it's absolutely out. I cannot believe, and I look at other countries, right? I look at France, Korea, like other places where they just didn't put up with it. They took to the streets and they just did not put up with it. And it's like, what is different about Americans? What is different about us that makes us not react in horror at this like obvious grift and obvious government overreach? So I think the line for me was crossed a couple months ago. I'm very surprised. Not surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm horrified.
If yeah.
Horrified is a better word than surprised.
Well,
that we are not. That it's we're all at the wedding. You know, like life goes on. Like it's kind of like no big deal. And I don't want to minimize it. Like I know that people are doing incredible hard work. I know that people are there's a subset of us that are outside that are doing the thing. Like I said, I just came back from Portland and I was blown away, right, by how they're standing up. But they are an outlier. They're not the norm. And that surprises me. And so I guess that's the question that I'm asking.
Thank you. Dale, you're up.
Yeah.
And then Moab.
You know, it's because some like South Korea, South Korea, France to somewhat of an extent is they're collectivists. It's a collective society. They share a collective culture. I lived in Tokyo for a year, right? It's like some of these places, it's more of a group think than an individual think. And America is built on the idea and the tenet of individualism. It's like, again, I go back to I live in a city of 8 million people, and most of us are walking around just minding our own business. Most of us are walking around avoiding eye contact with other people, right? And so, in this type of situations where you need people to have more of a collective outrage or a collective opinion, when we're taught since childhood that, your future is determined by you, not by other people. Everything you do, you have like self autonomy. It's not collective autonomy. Some of these things in instances where you may need more of a collective opinion, it's hard for people to kind of recondition the way they think. You can see something happening literally to your neighbor, and you might think, well, that's their problem. It's not my problem. I'm with you though. It's this idea. Look at what happened before. I made a comment, and all she heard was from me was I'm doing whataboutisms. That's not what I'm doing at all. I'm saying that the problem is the body politic as a whole. It's not a blue or red thing. It's what happens when these people go to Washington. They're supposed to go to work, but they go to basically enrich themselves. But all she heard was, I'm doing whataboutisms. And so to me, the inherent problem is that we don't have a single opinion on what to do because we don't have a single opinion on what the problem is. So I just, I say, I was going to say you should focus your efforts state by state, but maybe it's city by city or block by block, because again, I go back to, I live in a city where there are 900 languages are spoken in New York City. So I go 5 blocks this way, 5 blocks that way, and the culture changes. So how do we come together as a collective?
Well, we used to be a melting pot. And Denise, to your point, um, I am going to I am going to see what happens on Saturday in my city, which, as you all know, is Phoenix, which, as you all know, is sort of a red state. And I want to see how big the No Kings marches are to see how much protest there really is to what is being done. But, and then I'll know, and I know that we were never a melting pot, Jamesy, but we at least said we were a melting pot. We at least ascribed to that theory. But if you want to see how far back this goes, I did find a copy of that poem that I was referring to last time that I put into the chat. Um, the painting about Icarus falling from the sky that was done by Bruegel the Elder, and maybe it was a 16th century painting. And the poem about it, which was written in I think 1920 something by W.H. Auden, and basically it's like someone is suffering and someone else is, you know, for argument's sake, mowing their lawn and not noticing it at all. And it is until you notice that one thing that throws you over the edge. And for me, I think it might be going to be if the IRS begins taking aim at what they consider left-leaning organizations, which they have now said they are putting someone in the criminal division of the IRS.
It's already happening with 501c3s and any sort of organization that supports anything that even smells like DEI or LGBTQ plus focused care and healthcare. This is a thing, and they're using it to essentially take away loan forgiveness and to coerce corporations to toe the line. So this is happening.
Okay, well, I was more thinking of putting George Soros in jail, which is something that Donald Trump has wanted to do for a long time because he thinks George Soros funds everything on the left.
Oh, so like jail the untouchables as sort of the final nail in the...
Right. So I am getting pretty close, and I'm giving serious thought to going out. I'm gonna see if I can go to the No Kings March on Saturday, and really just go there to put my body out there to make a showing. I used to do that all the time, and I think it's time to do it again.
We have Mo and Steve are new. Good morning, Mo. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, what I came up for it was a while ago, so I don't have so much to chime in. But I mean, this shit is just so freaking depressing and sad, and I just don't see any way out of this for a very long time, if possible. Yeah, that's just my little thing there. But I'd like to hear what Steve has to say.
Good morning, Steve.
Hey, good morning. Not sure where to start. I guess I listened to a very depressing Supreme Court argument yesterday. God, it was surreal. I guess the most shocking thing I heard yesterday was it's not like it's new. Well, it's a new wrinkle. So the court decided a case a while back, basically saying that partisan gerrymandering was not a problem constitutionally, right? you may not be able to gerrymander for racial reasons, but you can gerrymander just to maximize the number of seats for your party. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, things like, well, you know, 48% of people statewide vote one way or 55% vote one way. Doesn't matter. You can have a situation where 55% of the people vote Democrat and 85% of the seats are Republican. There's no constitutional issue there. They already did that. But what happened yesterday was essentially, it sounds like it's going to be an evisceration of the Voting Rights Act. Basically what the Solicitor General of the United States argued, or the Assistant Solicitor General to be more accurate, on behalf of the United States was that in order to win a challenge, a racial gerrymandering challenge, you basically have to be able to present a map that achieves the same partisan goals as the map that the state is presenting. So, you know, if it's kind of hard to explain, I guess, if it's not enough to show that the effect of a map is to disenfranchise black voters. You have to be able to propose a map that both doesn't disenfranchise them, but still achieves the partisan goals of the map that was proposed by the whoever did the redistricting. So I think that's kind of getting in the weeds, but I think I really do think now, if it wasn't already true, I don't think there's any reason to expect that we are going to have free and fair elections in the midterm or anytime soon. The floodgates are now opened for gerrymandering across a number of states. And obviously, gerrymandering is generally controlled by the legislature. Sometimes it's an independent commission. And most state legislatures are red. Most state legislatures are Republican, even in some states that are called blue states. And I just don't think there's any reason to expect we're going to have free or fair elections. And I haven't even mentioned suppression or worse, scrubbing voter rolls, all the other getting rid of mail-in balloting, combination of suppression of voting, repression of voting, and gerrymandering. Elections are not going to get us out of this.
Chinga, good morning. Haven't heard from you. Bueller. Bueller. Bueller.
Hey, Chinga, do you love me?
I'm on a plane. Yes, I do love you, Mom.
Thank you.
I think what you're saying is, you know, when people who I don't normally hear, I mean, you know, like they're, you know, playing the alarm bells a little bit. I tend to listen just a little bit more because I tend to experience you as somewhat cool, like cucumber most of the time. Maybe I not listen to the right conversations, but you know, there's an intensity. I could do it this morning in this room. There is a bit of an intensity, and you know, I had a typical fashion. I had a couple of things I wanted to talk about today, and they're just too much of a changing of lanes. So you know, if anyone has any comments about this or anything else, feel free.
I have a question. Because I don't watch the news too much, but you know, watch Stephen Colbert. and I get some little clips from there. But you know, are they? You know, they said with the airports that Christine Nome is doing, like, is on the TV. You know, blaming the Democrats for the shutdown. Is this something that is happening at all the airports? And
A lot of the airports are refusing to play it.
okay, good. And you know, this whole like blaming the other party thing for shutdowns and stuff like that and like, is this something that has often been used on both sides throughout history?
You mean at airports? Because I think they said that goes against some type of U.S. law.
Well, not particularly airports, but just this mass spread of just completely blaming the other side like this. Like,
well, so
yeah.
Good morning.
Who controls Congress right now? Who controls the presidency? Who controls the courts? This is a real question, bro. Who controls those?
Well, yeah, the Republicans.
There we go. So regardless of what anyone says, the fault lies on the people that are literally in control. And if you're asking if Republicans normally point to the other side and say it's their fault for their shortcomings, the answer is yes. The Democrats do it too, to a much lesser extent. But it's always the usual suspects. Like this week on TikTok, there was a armless Christian pastor who's also a conservative who was just recently arrested for child pornography. And if I could tell you how my jaw did not drop, how not surprised I was, because this is literally par for the course in the last year. So many Christians and conservatives who literally a few months earlier were accusing Democrats of being child rapists have been arrested for child pornography, child abuse, sex trafficking. So it's one of those things where we live in a topsy-turvy world where black is white, good is bad, and bad is good. Charlie Kirk is another example. I've recently realized that everyone who's worshiping Charlie Kirk is literally an antichrist because they're following a demon. But they wrap themselves in Christ and the American flag. They must be good. Only good people wrap themselves in Christ and the American flag. But that's the world we live in. And so don't believe their lies. They're so obvious. Don't believe it. Also, good morning. I heard the word intensity and I said, I bet I could be more intense.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that last point a lot.
I'm not believing that bullshit. I guess I'm just trying to figure out, in a ways, how much, okay, so sort of just a little back to did Obama ever, of course not to this extent, but did he or Clinton ever put full blame on other parties in any capacity?
No, Obama, every time the Republicans literally went on TV, Mitch McConnell, and said, we're not gonna do this because we don't like Obama. Whether it be healthcare, whether it be whatever, right? They literally said, we're not gonna do anything because we hate Obama. And Obama, the statesperson that he is, always tried to find a compromise. And Bill Clinton, a similar thing, right? They're politicians, so they're shady, but by different degrees, right? Obama is not on the Epstein list. Bill Clinton is. Bill Clinton definitely is. Bill Clinton definitely started bombing people in the Middle East to distract from his own personal drama. At the same time, Obama also started bombing people as a way to appease or court the Republicans.
Thank you.
I want to add some nuance to this government shutdown question. Of course, both sides are prone to weaponizing it, but I have kind of a different take on what's actually happening. They're not voting to reopen the government. They're voting to raise the debt ceiling, which conservatives, and I mean fiscally conservative, are going to say that like it's an opportunity to renegotiate the budget, which is to say that just because you guys voted for all this stuff, you haven't paid for it. Therefore, we can pretend that we didn't agree to that, you know, like according to our laws and that kind of thing. So the blame game is obviously there. The thing that's unique about this situation is rather than it just being, I get what I want, or, you know, you don't get what you want, we're in a situation where like progressives have been run over for so long. Like we're being abused in the court, we're being abused in the law, we're being abused with law enforcement. National Guard's being used again. Like the list goes on, right? So, like, we're kind of at a point where Democrats can't lose anything by just keeping shit shut down because we're getting the same treatment that we got when it was still open.
Yeah, it seems that the only way Americans are going to learn their lesson is by literally letting conservatives take the whole country over a cliff. And they are. Like, we don't fully understand the scope of how generationally we are fucked moving forward. There's a good chance that because of all these shenanigans, the dollar is not going to be the default global currency. China the other day just literally threatened the United States with a hydrogen bomb, saying, if you fuck with us, we have an ICBM that has 40 nuclear warheads plus a hydrogen bomb. We will not shoot first, but we will not let you shoot second. Like, it's fucking crazy. And this is all because we are where we are. The president is who he is. Like, he literally wants to build an archway in commemoration of him. He wants the Nobel Peace Prize. He wants a list of things. He also wants a third term. So, like, this is going to turn to blows. This is going to get more violent than it already is. Because I remind you that Texas has invaded, Illinois? And the federal government is trying to invade Oregon. They're trying to fight Antifa, which is a concept, which stands for anti-fascists. Everyone's great-grandpa that fought in World War II was an anti-fascist, and now the fascists are saying that the anti-fascists are terrorists. Like, we've been in trouble, and it's only going to get worse before it gets better.
To be fair, though, and I'm very privileged to have known my World War II vet great-grandpa and be taught by him. Hitler thought that we were terrorists too. So pick up the torch and start running towards the pilot.
The good guys never burn books. then the good guys never have death camps. The good guys don't bomb babies.
Can I ask an unrelated question? Sorry to break the flow, but did Steve Crone talk about the SCOTUS take up of the Louisiana case on voting rights?
He did mention that, yeah.
Thanks. I'll follow up with you later, Steve.
It wasn't good.
No, I figured, but I wanted to get into the breakdown with you. It's okay.
Wouldn't it be nice if something was good? For once, it doesn't feel like it is.
The reporters walking out of the Pentagon was good and resisting that pledge. So we got to take the small wins, I think.
I think there's a lot that's good.
There's a lot that's happening. I agree.
I think the position that I take is there's a lot worth like fighting for and standing up for, and there's a lot that's good. I think what gives me concern and alarm is like it's death by 1,000 paper cuts, and people don't realize they're bleeding out. And so it's like, to me, this is worth kind of taking a real stand for. And you know, we're talking about Love Is Blind. It just feels so surreal to me. It's so bizarre. And so I know it's heavy, and Dr. James, thank you for giving us some space to like really like flesh this out. I know there's a desperation to kind of Pollyanna and say like, no, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And so I know that there's a little courage that I really appreciate in you allowing this conversation to happen in the way that it's happening, because we don't want this to be true. We don't want this to be hard. We don't want this to be like this. And I get that, but like I just don't think good stuff doesn't happen accidentally. Like somebody's got to do it, and it just feels like um, like we just need to be a little more concerned than we are, a little more activated than we are, and think about, I guess, the assignment that I have for everybody in the room, if I could give you one, is like what are you willing to fight for? Are you like we hold up all these people as our heroes and our historical legends and whatever, and if you notice the thread, they fought for this, and it's just been so bizarre to me to watch domino after domino fall. And I don't have a magic wand. I don't have a silver bullet. I don't, whatever other metaphor I could come up with really quickly on the fly. I just think, like, be engaged. Just really, I think this is the time for us all to be, like, fully engaged and think about what that means for you. Because I'm with Rick on this one. Everybody's got a different skill set. Everybody's got a different gift. Everybody's got a different way they touch the elephant, But figure out what that is and do it, because I think we are in very serious time.
There's a book that everyone should probably read called The Fourth Turning. The basic thesis of this, I'm going to steal a line from Battlestar Galactica and oddly Peter Pan 2. This has happened before, and it's going to happen again. That's how history works, a series of cycles. And we're far enough from the last great war that we've forgotten or gotten comfortable with certain folks. Now they've risen to power, and now they're going to remind us of why we fight tooth and nail. And things are going to get ugly. They'll get better eventually, history says. But boy, it's going to get like, World War II ugly. Because that's been the pattern of history over and over and over and over again, once every 80 to 100 years. So prepare.
Yeah, I mean, there is no superhero that's going to come out and save us. It's going to be all of us working together, using our own skill sets and using multiple tools. So I think that in Portland right now, the tool that they are using, these dancing, ducks and dinosaurs and frogs, is an effective tool at making the foolishness that is the message that Portland is a hellhole. It's a very effective tool at slowing down that narrative, right? Because if there were fires, if there was a lot of vandalism going on, it would be used extremely effective at being able to send troops into cities. So this is a way of de-escalation of the message that they are sending. Now, I just got a text here in the central coast of California that ICE just showed up in one of our Latina neighborhoods here. So I'm getting dressed to go over there right now. So this is the other way that we fight. Friday or Saturday, I'm going to the protest at the government center here. That's another way of fighting. Calling your representatives and saying you've got to stand firm. And if you have Republican representatives, call them, flood the zone. And the Republicans use these tools. Flooding the zone is something they are extremely effective at. And by flooding the zone, the thing that they're doing at airports, every single day here on primetime TV, Christine Ohm, and this is in California, Christine Ohm shows up on our screens saying, "We are coming for you. We are coming for you. We are coming for you." Every night, I see this commercial multiple times in prime time. This is a very effective tool at frightening people. And we have to counter these things. Those ads are costing a shitload of money. Point that out.
Yeah, we need the financial tracker.
We do need a financial tracker. I mean, they are spending a ridiculous amount of money on propaganda. I have noticed, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but if you have like a Google or an Apple news feed, White House, for the first time ever that I've seen, White House press releases are showing up in a prime spot on Google news feeds, on Apple news feeds, on various news feeds. They are paying to have those ads moved up to the top. They are paying, and of course Google's taking the money. So we have to fight on multiple fronts using multiple different techniques, and we have to be willing to take some risks. Going to La Colonia and El Rio neighborhoods right now when ICE is showing up, there's some bad things might happen. You have to be willing to go there and say, hey, they're going to be taking my picture. Who knows what could happen there. But people are fed up with it. People are fed up. People are fighting back in Chicago. And it could get very dangerous. There was a priest that got hit in the head with a rubber bullet and got knocked down, doing nothing, standing there, protesting, singing songs. And these are the kinds of things that we have to make clear. I grew up in the civil, I was a kid, but I remember very clearly seeing civil rights marches where they were turning fire hoses on people, and they were sicking dogs on people, and they were beating peaceful protesters. And this is really where the civil rights movement it had to get to a point where we were seeing innocent people, peaceful, good people, just wanting the same rights as everybody else, being beaten by despicable people. And that started to turn the tide. That started to get people to go, hey, this is not right. And I know that it sounds naive to say we have to start flipping minds, and we aren't going to flip the most radical, the most fringe people. But there are a lot of people who just have gotten caught up in this narrative of us versus them. And I think they can see the light. I think that light bulb can be turned on. And from hearing from homemakers in Kansas who are very, very conservative, say, this whole Portland thing is a little weird. We were on fire, and they are seeing these ads of the silly dancing dinosaurs, and it's not flipping them immediately. They still think that I'm a Marxist. They still think that I hate America. None of that is even remotely true. But they are beginning to see that they are being fed a bunch of bullshit. And it's going to be they've been chipping away for 50 years. We're going to have to keep chipping away. It's not going to change just like that. And we have to use multiple tools to do it in our own communities. And we have to be able to reach the people in our community more than we have to reach people in other communities first. Because we know our communities. We can reach us. We can reach the people who have some amount of trust or connection to us and slowly start to turn this around. It ain't going to be fast or easy, but we have to keep working at it.
I want to share that on the coffee stoop this morning, I was so encouraged. I just want to say that I hear the conversations starting to bubble up in lots of places, different places that I've been, from rural parts of state to the city. And this morning I heard someone talking with concern about the absurdity of, the Peter Thiel interviews talking about AI, and then sort of this end of times fascism. And so, and I was seeing this conversation take place amongst white men. So I was encouraged to hear that more and more people are, I feel it's penetrating, not as much as, like Denise said earlier, as much as it needs to be fast enough, but I think the numbers are growing in support for the marches. I think we're starting to see some collective, behavior coming together. We have MIT pushing back on deals with the administration that are obviously going against both academic freedom and their own, right to manage the university, and the media coming together. And now I'm seeing some lawyers that are out there in front of protesters, kind of saying, okay, we don't, you troops have told us to stand down, but we don't understand what state law are you referring to? Where is the state trooper in charge? We don't understand your order. We are exercising our First Amendment right. We are not doing an illegal action. You are doing an illegal action. So you see some lawyers stepping up, and sometimes a lot of it is decentralized, and then other times, it would be great if we understood more coordination. But I think that there's also, a big opportunity of people. I think people across the political spectrum are very irritated with the grift and the graft and the unfairness, and feeling like the system is rigged. And that speaks to what Daryl, who's not here anymore, was mentioning earlier, I think, about we can all agree that the system needs to be reformed. So maybe there's a chance there. And don't forget, don't give up hope. I don't know what's going to happen with this SCOTUS case, but don't give up hope of, an action for the elections as well. I don't think we should forget that. And finally, I wish, Steve, I don't know if you're going to do a room to break it down further, how the importance of this case or the risk of how many, people of color votes could be disenfranchised, depending on the outcome of it.
I invited Steve in the chat if he wanted to give a breakdown there. Less informed than he is, that
You were a little choppy there. But I also want to remind everybody that was it the young Republicans of some college, their private chat was outed, and they're all Nazis. Also, there was a congressman who's was on a Zoom call. His office was on a Zoom call, and right behind him there was an American flag with a swastika. Like, conservatives and Republicans will tell you that it's unfair for us to compare them to Nazis, but their behavior, their own words, reveal who they are. So don't ever be afraid to get into their fucking faces. Don't be afraid, because historically Nazis always lose.
I would like to say something about that chat that was leaked. It's a very hard thing to say. I'm trying to like walk a line, a really narrow line here. I think sometimes we have a desperation for everyone to be good people that I think can be extremely deleterious to the efforts that we are putting forth. And if you haven't really closely read that story, I want to invite you to really sit and really read it, because for months now, people are gaslit about how we talk negatively about these policies, and we say that they're racist, and we say that they're and that really beats a lot of people back. And what I saw in that thread is a word I don't use very, very loosely. I saw evil. And these are the people that are in line to be leaders. This was not like a random group of people. This was a group that came together at the leadership formation of the and I am not one of those people that thinks all Republicans are this, all Republicans are that. I definitely am not that. But I do want us to understand that there is an actual oppositional force that we do have to actually deal with. And we can't always just sprinkle fairy dust on them, right? They do not mean us well. And specifically by us, I'm talking about Black people, Jewish people, like they do not mean us well, and they create harm for all of us. So there's a really difficult line as a Black woman that I always have to have to kind of forge of this. You point out something that somebody says as racist, and quickly somebody says, well, it's just economics. And we have a desperation to throw the economic conversation to the center of this. And I just, if that's a position that you normally take, I invite you to sit and read the chats. These are not old people. These are young people people who are learning and who are being positioned as leadership. And I want us to think about what that means. And you know, I feel I'm torn because I feel like I want us to be positive and armed and fortified and ready for the challenge and feel capable. I think what gives me concern is like, it's like you have to know what fight you're in. And you need to understand who the bad guys are. And there is sometimes a desperation to create friends among people that do not wish you well and wish only harm for you. And so I guess I'm just raising a call for deep discernment, deep observation of what's really happening, and a profound desire to operate in like radical candor, like Kim's great book, Radical Candor, of what the challenge is, because I think it's profound. And if you haven't looked at that chat, you really, really need to. It was as revealing as watching Adolescence on the Netflix special of like, is this what these kids really think? Yes, it is. And what do we do about that?
Didn't our vice president sort of minimize that by saying something to the effect, paraphrased, boys will be boys, something like that?
Yes. So according to them, boys will be boys is saying the N-word a whole bunch. Boys will be boys is threatening rape to people you don't like, or concentration camps, or death camps.
Rape to the point of suicide.
Rape to the point of suicide. And there's so much connective tissue between all the global villains right now. And I don't think people are really ready to have that conversation yet.
Can I ask you, Romero? I mean, that's you have to forgive me if I'm inarticulate. I'm still working on my first coffee here. Good morning, everyone. But the global villains, like how does one identify the global villains, and what is it that they may all have in common with each other, from your point of view? I mean, in this chat, I know you can't go on like a long diatribe or something. Just, you know, it's early in the morning for me, maybe for you too, but generally speaking, like, who are the global villains? What makes them like kind of somewhat similar?
So the use of rape and violence as a tool, the use of collective punishment as a tool, gaslighting, right? So the good guys are never the ones bombing babies. The good guys are never burning books. The good guys are never joking about or actually building concentration camps. Those are never the good guys. Right, so Greta Thunberg, who's a environmentalist, was in a flotilla to Palestine to provide food to a population that's been systemically bombed and starved for 2 years. She was caught by the IDF. She was stripped naked. She was videotaped. She was threatened with rape. She was beaten. Anytime her naked body touched the Israeli flag, they proceeded to kick her. That's not what the good guys do. Texas invading another state for political reasons is not what the good guys do. Invading Portland, Oregon is not what the good guys do. Starting up camps in Florida for the specific purpose of disappearing brown and black immigrants is never what the good guys do. The good guys are never the ones zip tying babies in Chicago. It's that simple.
Yeah.
My moral clarity is that simple.
Yeah. No, I'm just, it's the same with mine. I don't have cognitive dissonance. Um, One of the most fascinating things that I've come across on Clubhouse is that, and I think it's a human thing, for a lot of people, is, I'm a white guy, right? Let's just say, for example, and let's say I'm going into a room on Clubhouse, and maybe there's some African Americans talking about reparations or something like that. There's a weird something in the back of my mind that wants me to say, oh, yeah, but my family's from Slovakia. I don't have anything to do with that. And, but also, for some reason, kind of somewhat defend other white people. It's this weird in-group defense mechanism that I think a lot of human beings kind of inherently have. I think it's part of the amygdala system. And I've thought long and hard about that damn thing, and I think I'm like you, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't care, right? I think it's absolutely ridiculous for us to ever defend anybody that kind of looks somewhat similar to ourselves, or people that we find maybe in the back of our mind, oh, this is my in-group, I should defend them for whatever ridiculous reason, I've gotten over that, and I think it's dumb, but I think it's for some reason people do that. So, is individualism one of the ways forward, Romero? I don't know. Thinking of yourself as an individual and trying to think of all other human beings as individuals, for me, that helps me with moral clarity, and not defending people just because they happen to be, in these fictitious in-groups that we create, ourselves. Yeah. Anyways.
We're a little different in the sense that I am, by a lot of people's view, white. But I reject that label full cloth because I'm not white. I am a Californian first. I'm an American and Mexican second. And then down the line from that, I am Spanish, Irish, English, German, with a quaff of indigenous American, right? But I'm not white. What is white?
Right. These generalizations, yeah, exactly.
So I get your impulse, because I grew up with that similar impulse. I had the benefit of growing up in two countries at the same time, but the programming was thick. I remember having a conversation in college with a friend saying, well, the Mexicans were never genocided the way the Jews were, which is not true. There was a genocide in Latin America, and it's overlooked. And the narrative is not that, but that's the truth. So I think once we liberate ourselves from whiteness and we associate ourselves with our geography and our cultures, then we can actually start having meaningful conversations with ourselves and others.
Right. I don't think it's necessarily whiteness. It could be blackness. It could be Jewishness. It could be whatever you are.
No, it doesn't work that way. No.
Sorry?
No, it doesn't work that way. You're wrong.
What do you mean?
You're wrong.
I haven't even gone to explain what
Yes, but you're trying to equivocate things like whiteness and blackness, and it doesn't work that way.
No. I'm talking about human psychology.
No, you don't. Okay, are you a psychologist?
Well, I'm talking. If you allow me to.
No,
continue.
I don't want to allow you to. That's why I'm trying to ask.
Well, you don't seem very tolerant, do you?
I'm not a very tolerant person.
Okay. Well, then don't speak with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was trying
I don't
to
know if
make
Dr. James is
Okay.
I'm here. Let's just do like a one mic at a time. And I want to hear from you. If Matthew can just sort of round out.
Yeah.
Tower your talk.
Like I said, I'm working on my first copy, so I may not be as eloquent as I'd like to be. But what I'm saying is, I think it's generally true is that human beings have this sort of, I feel, this is just my opinion, I could be wrong, that we have this sort of inbound feeling to want to defend people within our own in-group, regardless of they're doing good or bad, right? And so, like I was saying, I thought long and hard about this, and even if my own father did something stupid, I wouldn't defend him. So why should I ever defend anybody that happens to look like me? That's kind of the point that I was trying to make. And I think a lot of people, if you speak ill of their quote unquote perceived in group, their automatic reaction is to kind of defend their own side. And I think this is a universal thing. Anyways, I land there.
Taro?
Yeah, no, I wanted to stop that conversation because of the fact that like it's embedded within like a lot of false claims, and it's a lot of like false positions to even take. I don't really care that like you've introspected to get to that point, because I don't think you actually have introspected very well. That you think that everybody is in the same situation and they just like they identify with what in groups exist for Black people. Like, this is ridiculous that you had that insight. But I've heard you before on this app, so I'm not surprised by what you're saying, right? Like, nothing's surprising. And the fact that you can say it was so like nonchalantly, I'm just having a coffee. And you know, my amygdala sometimes kicks in, and I just start defending people.
Okay. I do just like the personal attack. So let's just try to.
I mean,
there's a way. I get you. I get.
Dr. James, like Dr. James, we are in.
Taro, I smell what you smell. I smell what you smell underneath the covers of what he was saying. I'm just asking.
What do you smell?
I don't need to respond to you, Matthew. It's by my good grace. You know what? It's by my good grace that you're here right now. So just please. Okay. I'm gonna give you one more chance.
Accused of anything.
You're not being accused of anything. I'm saying that I just smell a rat. But Taro, please continue, but without the personal attacks. Matthew.
You're calling me a rat.
I know. I'm saying I smell a rat. I didn't say that to you.
Do you, Matthew, feel like you smell like a rat?
I'm letting him participate in the chat for.
Wow, I totally missed something. There must be some history there that I don't know, because I.
No. There's okay. Here's no. Wait. I'd like to respond. I wasn't responding because I was kind of trying to be open and curious. I've had experiences that have been plus and minus depending on the day. But what I did here was kind of like a flirtation with kind of a way of getting some kind of, you know, people would call it maybe white supremacist ideas, sort of blanketed in a new form of language, like saying I don't do the thing, but I'm going to say the thing that I do or I do think. But I'm using it as kind of like the counterpoint to where I stand. Now, I'm not saying that's where he was headed. I'm just saying that I was feeling like, where is this going? And I don't want to get into. We've had a really good talk today. I really don't want to make this combative. So, Taro, I'm really going to ask you. Let me be the worst voice right now, and maybe you can rise above me and make a coherent point, because I feel like I'm sort of in the mud, and I'm doing that for everyone, so that you don't have to. And I'm gonna mute this. I'm driving right now, so I'm doing my best to hold this room as best I can while I'm home.
What freeway are you on?
Well, I'm just about to get on. I think the 80.
Oh, cool. But no, I mean.
Could I respond to what Romero said about?
Yes, you may, Les. But Tara, I don't think she got to finish her point, and I was really simply just doing.
Let's go. I'll take a breather.
Thank you, Taro. And Les, yes, I would like to trust you right in this very moment. So please have at it.
So Greta Thunberg had this photo op thing where she was sending supplies down to Gaza, and he was going to hand over to Hamas to.
You've already lost me. You've already lost me, Les. I'm sorry. You've already lost me.
Hey, I didn't interrupt you, sir.
Yeah, Romero, please let him get his thought out, and then we can.
Yeah, just write down what you're going to say. You have some.
No, you're not the mod, Les. I'm the mod, but just please.
You're poking a bear, Les, and you're welcome to poke.
This is one of those situations.
When your face gets bitten by the bear, I don't want you to cry.
We've had such a good talk today. Please, I'm asking, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of prune the stage, and I don't.
Give me 2 minutes, please.
Les, you're up. Please enjoy.
So Greta Thunberg said that she wanted to give the stuff to the people of Gaza. The IDF intercepted the boat so that Hamas wouldn't get the aid, and they told her explicitly that she was that they would give the aid to people in Gaza and make sure Hamas didn't get it. So it's obvious that this was not a function of getting aid to Gaza. This was a function of just trying to make a pretend. And Romero made a really said stuff about how Greta Thunberg was treated, that she was threatened with rape. Now, if that was true, I would expect
It is true.
that the New York Times would have reported it. And please put that reference to reliable sources into the chat so we can decide if it's credible or not. Thank you.
You've lost me a long time ago, Les. In a single conversation,
Reliable.
I have lost all respect for you.
Okay, but let's keep it away from the personal attacks, please. I'm just asking nicely. And also, Matthew, I want to bring you back up, Matthew, but I did want to say this. I had planned to talking about the kind of the neuropsychology of evil and othering, and I think it does kind of nest into what you were saying, but there were some things that you were saying that felt like they were kind of not quite right, but I don't have the capacity driving right now to get into the precise points that were a little bit kind of red flags for me. And go ahead, Romero.
Supremacists always make evil things irrelevant. She wasn't trying to help people, it was just a photo op. She wasn't threatened with rape. That must be a lie. Les, I can tell you right now, from this moment on, we are not friendly. We are not friends. You've chosen a side and you chose evil.
I asked for reliable source.
The internet is free, Les. It's not that hard. And the fact that you're saying that if it doesn't come from the New York Times, it's not real, is fucking baffling, Les. It's fucking baffling. I need you to be a human being. I need you to be a human being and not a supremacist.
Dr. James, is this a room where you have personal attacks?
I am speaking facts. This is not an attack. This is based on your behavior and what you're saying. This is a judgment. I have judged you.
Well, I'm thinking, I just go by reliable sources. And if you...
Whoa.
Yeah. So we're at the point of the conversation where I think boring is better than.
Oh, that was awful. I was just coming off mic to say, why are we doing this to each other?
Yeah, I agree, and it's over. It's done. I just trying to figure out like why it's happening. I just know it's happening, and it's just like I don't want to host that.
What I gotta say is I feel is like, okay, if this can happen here, like, but it's a shame because we usually can come together, and if we disagree, whatever, but I feel like, we can have our different points of view, but we do not attack. And if we attack each other here, how the fuck is anybody going to get along anywhere else, So, I feel like I could see the points on the different sides of the conversations that people were talking about. And I just, and to Les, I don't know if he's still in the room, but Les, I feel like, okay, he asked for a source. There may be other people who feel the same way, and, maybe they want a source. Personally, what you said, Rovis, is that's a freaking horrendous thing that, what you're saying, but I haven't heard that story before. So I would be interested in a reliable source, because I could go on Google and go look at stuff, but right now, like, information is all just whack. You don't know what's factual, what's not. There may be people who don't know where to properly look, so a source would be helpful. So I really see, like, all these sides, and I feel like the attacking thing really should not happen. I would expect better behavior from everyone. Sorry, I had to let that out.
All right, I think I'm ready. What's up? Should we have a discussion about why?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna try and be like, guys, let's all hold hands in this moment. Let's take a breath, right? Everybody, I can count. We'll do 2 box breaths before we start the conversation with me, because then maybe we can all get into the space of this. And apparently, like, people think I'm authoritarian, so I'm just inviting everybody to do this with me. Okay? We're gonna do it together. Ready? So pull in 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of breaths in. Take this time to pull all of the energy back into your brain and open yourself up for a conversation. And breathe out all of the frustration, okay? And then we're gonna count to 4 out. We're not gonna take a breath in for 4. Then we're gonna take 4 again for a breath in and a breath out. And then we're gonna give 4 to rest, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale it all. Now don't do anything. Be still. Ready? Inhale.